Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Bennun here with Israeli News Live. Just got a little screenshot here of our Patreon channel, patreon.com/Israeli News Live. We've actually been putting up videos all month this month here. Just trying to keep some things there fresh for you guys. This one here went a little deeper with Greg, something that had been shared with me about a trip that NASA did that nobody ever knew about, and a trip where the space astronauts never came home. You might want to watch that. It has a lot to do with some spiders, and I'm not talking about the spiders like you see on the video's cover on YouTube, which you guys may not see that here, I guess, but this story blew me away. I wanted to see what Greg thought about it, so I shared that with him. He commented as well, so I think you're going to find the story very fascinating. Let's get, though, into the heart of the matter. We are about to go to Gaza, and we're going to be talking about the issue. Gaza faces shortages of everything, operate without anesthesia. I need to warn you, some things could be graphic. I don't really remember exactly what, but I said to you the other day, I wanted to share with you some thoughts that I had about why certain people in Israel's government will not allow medical supplies, especially anesthesia, in for those people in Gaza, the children especially, that are suffering these horrendous operations. And I mean, just absolutely horrifying. Bad enough, more than 10,000 children are dead in Gaza. That's bad enough. Just like the ICC criminal court, God bless South Africa for having the guts to say something about it, because the rest of the world, you just keep your big mouth shut, or you sound the praises of Israel. Keep it up. Like Nikki Haley said, finish them. Of course, later she says, I'm only talking about Hamas. Well, Netanyahu helped and America helped create Hamas. I spoke to Linda Moulton Howell last night on the telephone. Her first words right out of her mouth when I asked her about Hamas and a reptilian agenda in Gaza, she said, Hamas, they are reptilian. I said, well, in that case, think about who created Hamas. Okay, so we began to have some discussions. Going to play a little bit of a clip here with Linda too tonight. I'm trying to get Linda to come on, do a broadcast with us. She had just come back from LA filming some other television series right now. Courageous lady there. I actually met Linda a couple of years ago. Really courageous woman. Just has never given up. In fact, we're going to be talking about her because of what they call cattle mutilation. That all plays into this. I mean, as strange as it's going to sound, it all plays into it. Now, I first had up here, though, for you this very interesting image, this reptilian image. This is a real bona fide artifacts that were discovered. You have the male reptilian here to your left, the female here to the middle and to the far right. And of course, you actually have a reptilian mother nurse breastfeeding her young. And the male actually having male genitalia, much like that of a human. I shared with you guys here on Patreon, or not here, this is not Patreon, but I shared on Patreon before how that reptilians, from one of the friends of mine that have actually had personally seen one, and as well as Colonel Greg also has seen reptilians as well. He said very terrifying, but I've always been told they have genitalia very much like humans do. So it didn't surprise me about this breastfeeding part, but you know what surprises me even more so? That's biblical. All right, before I go to do that, let me just share the mystery of the 7,000-year-old Ubaid lizard men, reptilians in ancient Sumer. It's widely recognized in mainstream archaeology that civilization began in Iraq and in ancient Mesopotamia. With the vast Sumerian civilization, there is, however, an archaeological find at Ubaid archaeologists site where several pre-Sumerian 7,000-year-old artifacts portraying humanoid creatures with lizard features were discovered. Yes, we're talking about genuine male and female reptile statues seen in a variety of poses. Now you said, Brother Steve, biblical? Yeah, believe it or not, biblical. Here we are, right here. We are in the book of Lamentations, chapter 4. There's two different words here that were used here. Well, it's actually the same word, just spelled differently. Tanin, right there, and or tanim, plural, and then tanin, here we go right here, plural as well. The old Hebrew script, and by the way, it's not the word jackals. I don't know. I think they do that intentionally because I don't want you to really know what the truth is. A tanin is a reptilian. It's a reptile. An alligator is another way to translate it. The Nun Safid on here, this letter right there at the end, that letter, that is the pluralization. If you go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, they don't use a mem like you have over here for pluralization. They use the Nun for pluralization. So this is, I think, the reason why they have here Tanim or Tanin. Gam Tanin, which means also the reptilians, there you go, draw out the breast, the shad, the breast, and they give suck to their young ones. They breastfeed. Another translation for Tanim besides reptiles is dragons. And they give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people has become cruel like the ostriches in the wilderness. Whoa, what do you know? You know, I really have a hard time, though, with this issue of ostrich. Anin is the word, and I've really tried to do some research to follow this up. We'll have to kind of leave it the way it is right now, but I still look at that nun yod. And I just really question if that was meant to be ostrich. Almost like a cover-up, if you ask me. Somebody trying to hide the truth. Because they had become cruel. The daughter, see, after he talks, the reason why I say this, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't follow the flow with what he says here. Also, the dragons or also the reptilians, they draw out the breasts and give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people has become cruel like the ostriches in the wilderness. No, maybe the daughters of my people have become cruel like the reptilians in the wilderness. Maybe that's what really, maybe there was a tav in front of that and not an ayin initially. I tried to follow it up in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Unfortunately, this particular lamentation is not part of the lamentation that we could find there. So we having to just rely on that this was actually not incorrectly written down. You got to remember the Masoretic text was done 1,000 years after Yeshua or Jesus, after 1,000 years after Jesus came on the earth there. So anyway, it is a thought to consider. I bring this out because the point is reptilians, much like humans, lived in the land of Israel at one time. And my concern is this is exactly, reptilians are known to feed on the suffering and to consume the adrenochrome of the victims of the suffering. I also have heard, and I've been trying to do. I was trying to do enough research to find it today that the archons feed also on the fear and pain and anguish from a spiritual sense in the other dimension there on your suffering in this dimension. And as I look at this and I think about CERN, the Hadron Collider, and I think about this whole activity that's going on right now to bring in this binary system, as they call it. As I said to you before, and I've said it many times, this is not traveling in our own solar system. It is moving through the ether, and the Hadron Collider is basically, in my estimation, from as much as I can gain from people that I know in the intel world that have constantly told me, Steve, it's not like you think. It's not something coming that you can see. It's traveling in the ether. And finally, one day I just blurted it out. I said, look, what is it? Is it something they know that it kind of like runs in a parallel system to ours, and then when it gets at the right point, they're going to use CERN to be able to open it up and allow this thing to come in? And I was told, now you're on the right track. By the way, when I put out this message here, and I did a short thing about this, I will not say who it was, but I had a friend from Israel reach out to me. And I'm talking about a friend from Israel that is well respected. Okay? I'm talking about a friend that his parents were in Auschwitz. And he said, I just watched your video, The Real Reason Israel Refuses Aid to Gaza. I see you are now beginning to see the way I have for the past 27 years. But we only know in part. The Lord has shown me little bits and pieces over the years. But the critical thing is to keep in mind is we must fight to keep Yeshua as our primary focus. Otherwise, the enemy will suck us in. But yes, there are powers such as that are from hell very much at work in the world, including Israel. You know, when he said he's talking about this right here. Here it is. Ubaid archaeological site. In other words, the Reptilians. You want to talk about shock that brother wrote that. Just blown away, blown completely away. Because I'm going to tell you something. The demonic forces, and by the way, too, I don't know if I can bring this up. Let me try. Oh, you're going to love it. I already talked to you a little bit about the Mason Lodge there in Jerusalem. But let me see if I can find this one thing for you. This is Jerusalem, Masons, Freemasons, right? Oh my gosh. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to share some things that I heard David Icke say, and I'm not some big fan of David Icke. I've just heard him talk about the adrenochromes and things like that. So I did do a little research. So hey, for the sake of research, because I'm not into this new age stuff and things like that, but I do want to share some thoughts with you. And he happened to have mentioned, I was looking at this one interview somebody did with him, and he's talking about the occult, the adrenochromes, the blood sacrifice, the humans, the drinking of the blood. And we're going to go into the reason why they do that, by the way, too. But then he brought out the Freemasonry thing. I'm like, I just got these images of the Freemason Lodge in Jerusalem. Oh, God. All right. This is from the Colburn, and I call it the Colburn document. There's others that call it Colburn Bible. I do not call it a Bible, but again, for historical reference, it is important. In old times there were spawned great monsters and beasts in fearful form, with frightful gnashing teeth and long ripping claws. An elephant was but a rat in comparison with them. Then, because of heavenly rebellion and turmoil and terror overwhelming the hearts of men, the Great One hardened the face of the land, which had become unstable, and the beasts were changed to stone. This was before times when the destroyer still slumbered in the upper vaults of heaven. Now, there's multiple places where that is spoken about, using this word, upper vaults, things like that, of heaven. In other words, another dimension. And I don't remember, let me see. Then with the dawning, men saw an awesome sight. There, riding on a great black rolling cloud, came the destroyer, newly released from the confines of the sky vaults. Now, I don't know what the original language was this was written in for me to be able to do word comparison, things like that. But when you're talking about vaults, that again is other dimensions. I was told years ago that the way Atlantis was sunk was they had developed this Hadron Collider type of device. And that caused Atlantis to be brought down. And it also allowed for these demonic entities to come in. You're talking about opening up the bottomless pit for Satan? I'm telling you, that's what's going to do it. That's what's going to do it. So what? And I bring this up. Why? Because I believe that what's happening right now, the elite that are controlling, that this is not God-fearing, good Israeli people. It's not good Palestinian people. It's not good Christian people living in the land of Israel. This is demonic entities that are controlling this system. You remember what Greg said the other day? He said if you take and you're dealing with one of these alien entities like a reptilian, he said you better act right then and there when you see that thing to take it out. He says, and when you do, cut its head off. He said, because if you don't, it'll shape-shift into a human, and then you'll be held responsible for the death of some person. Can you believe that? I mean, that's hard to wrap my head around. But maybe it's true. And the odd thing is here is that you've got people that are running the government of Israel that created Hamas, funded Hamas by the millions of dollars, allowed all kinds of massive cash to flow across the border so Hamas could be well funded. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they did. And as they got well funded, and then they created this attack on Israel, killed 1,400 Israeli citizens in a slaughter. And they did that for, see, those little elitists there that are controlling the country. We've already played the videos where they were told to stand down. I got that message early on. In fact, the same brother that sent the thing I was on track was the very one that sent me the former military guy, his writings that said that they were told to stand down on October the 7th. Yeah, I'm very passionate about it. You better believe I am. Because I care about the Israeli people that really want to know what the truth is. And I care deeply about the Palestinian people that are being trampled upon. And they're being trampled upon and suppressed. Not by Israeli people. They're being trampled on and suppressed by a demonic entity controlling that country. Oh, there's no doubt a portal there. I mean, think about it for a minute too. Gaza was the ancient land of the Philistines, and what did we have when David met Goliath? Where did he come from? Right out of Gaza. Like Brother Greg said, he said when he killed the giant, he had to cut his head off. He said because if he didn't, the thing would grow back. I mean, this is like science fiction, if you ask me. But I'm beginning to start to put some pieces together, and you're going to have to do some deep thinking when you start seeing some of the things I'm about to show you. All right, like I said, be warned. This could be graphic, so let's be careful in what we're going to see here. The article on Sputnik there, they don't have anesthesia. I think this was just the article here. I think over here, this is where it's going to get a little graphic, friends. Okay, so. I want to warn you now. Let's listen into what he says here a little bit.
In Gaza City, Al-Shifa Hospital is only a mile away, but the intense Israeli fire meant the family couldn't get her there. Hani Baseso had little more than scissors and faced an agonizing decision. Ahad risked bleeding to death if he didn't amputate.
They bombed us. This is my niece. Imagine, I am amputating her leg at home.
أنا بعملها بتل رجلها في الدار.
What do the Jews want from us? What is this injustice that we are facing? We have been besieged for 15 days. I am amputating her leg without anesthetic.
Ahed, who has since undergone further operations in the hospital, spoke from her home 3 weeks later.
عمو شاف الليفة اللي بنليف فيها الصحون.
My uncle saw the sponge that we clean the dishes with, a wire, washing up liquid and bleach. He took them and he started scrubbing my leg. He amputated my leg without anesthetic and without anything at home. They placed a bucket under me and they turned on some flashlights to see the arteries. I was just saying, praise be to God, and reading the Quran. Thank God I did not feel much, but of course there was pain, and the scene and the shock.
How sad that is. It breaks my heart to hear that. But you know what? Those little devils, the demonic side of this, like I said, the killing of the children, the killing of the mothers and fathers that are not Hamas. And I don't care about your stupid little excuse. Oh, they're using them for human shields. Oh, yeah, so let's just kill hundreds of innocent people because you're looking for one terrorist. A terrorist, never mind that you created in the first place. No, that's not why you're doing it. You're doing it for your sacrifice. Some people would say a sacrifice to Molech. Molech actually means king. Yeah, maybe the king of the Reptilians is who you're doing it for. Even as it says in the word there on multiple occasions, do not let your seed or your children, your daughters and your sons pass through the fire to Molech. What despicable things there. Now, I showed you these reptilians and stuff, right? Let's go back to Ariel Sadok, Rabbi as he's called. Ariel Sadok, been on the History Channel multiple times. Rabbi says reptilians are the good guys. Right? I've played that for you before, but I want you to hear it right out of his own mouth again for yourself. Listen in. There's a reason that I'm playing all of this, okay?
Still communicate telepathically with all of these other entities. There was a race of highly evolved reptilians who matured and evolved on Earth and have since ascended. And they presently serve Hashem, God. And they are reptilian entities, maybe evolved dinosaurs, who knows? I don't think the dinosaurs were so 65 million years ago. They were probably a lot closer than that. But aside from that, an evolved reptilian race. They are referred to as, in the Sefer Yetzirah, they're referred to as the Teli, T-E-L-I. I write all about this. You go search this out. Sefer Yetzirah says that they rule in this universe like a king on his throne. They're the reptilians.
Notice, did you catch that part? They rule like a king on his throne. Do not let your children pass through the fire to Molech. Your seed also. They were interbreeding with these demonic entities.
And they know us. We know them by different names.
Watch what he says.
The book of Daniel calls them the Irin, the Watchers. The book of Isaiah refers to them as the Seraphim. Now, the Seraphim are the ones who are in the palace of God saying, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh.
Do you not want to vomit yet? Reptilians, he's claiming, are seraphim. They go through they're up there saying, Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy is the Lord. Reptilians, okay? I mean, look, this guy right here, honestly and truly, he would hold these guys right here as the great kings. Yeah, there's your Molech right there. All right, Rabbi Tzedek, there's your mullet. Kind of like what this guy shows in this picture right here. Interesting, the Sephiroth tree there as well, right? It's right there kind of buried into there, and he's got his little devil god right there, his little devil king. And this is supposed to be the great holy ones. You know, I mean, somebody drinking some weird Kool-Aid, if you ask me. I think before I go to Chaim Eshed, this was the Israeli astronomer. I'm going to come back to him in just 1 second there. I want to share with you something I found in the, this was under the Haya Ashar, and if I'm not mistaken, part of the Midrash. And we already know, biblically speaking, God says that the soul, or the nefesh means soul, is in the blood. It's one of the reasons why when they harvest the blood, or they drink the blood when they kill a human, they're trying to capture that part of the soul that's in that blood. But if you'll ever notice, too, that another thing they do, and when we're looking at Gaza, though, I'm looking more at the Archon side of that, where they're feeding on the suffering and torture of the human person that is nearly dying at that point. Not to mention, I would not be a bit surprised if there is not harvesting going on of organs and things like that as well. I would not be a bit surprised about that, especially with so many killings that they have going on and the fear and the trauma that the people are facing. I mean, it's like a feeding frenzy for devils. No doubt Ukraine, very similar type situations. And the weird thing is you've got UFOs and stuff like that all popping up around even during the Gaza war. And I'll tell you something too. Time can nearly like stand still. I'm going to show some of that to you. They can do things there that you don't even realize. Now, I was pulling this up though out of this Kav Haya Ashar, from the Midrash, and this is something that Jews believe in. Said the seat of the nefesh, or the seat of the soul, is in the liver, which is filled with an abundance of blood, corresponding to the nefesh, the Holy One. Blessed is He commanded us in the wearing of the tzitzit. Thus, the three commandments mentioned above to illuminate all three aspects of the soul, the nefesh, the ruach, and the nishma. Nefesh being soul, ruach is the spirit, and nishma literally means let's hear. According to the well-known teaching of the Sage, the tzitzit contains the one techlis colored thread, because the shade of blue resembles the firmament, reminds us of the throne of glory, and the purpose of the thread is to sanctify the nefesh, or the soul, located in the liver, the main side of both the body's blood and the trait of anger. Interesting. Trait of anger in the liver. No wonder why they put the people under such fear. And then these Illuminatis that are known to be shapeshifters. Greg has said that before in an interview with me before, that he's literally been there and seen them do it. But then after they sacrifice that person, causing so much torture and pain, then they consume everything from the neck down, especially the liver. They talk about adrenochrome. I mean, I'm just sickening when I see this kind of stuff. Anyway, this article right here, let me make sure it's blown up large enough for you guys to see what we're about to read here. You see the radiation bounce, and you see how a transformative body comes. A light comes out of it, and the frequency you can't see with the naked eye. In fact, you see nothing when you look normally, but in cameras at high frequencies, you see that body perform mutilation, carnage, draws blood from the cattle on the ground in front of your eyes. What exactly did they see? Something like a cloud like that, like drawing a ghost to children. It's an undefined amorphous cloud, and the rays emanate from it, and you see the cow twitching, and when it's over, everyone runs to the field to see, and there's nothing there, no blood, but the cow's body has a cut. It's like a laser. They took out her organs and drew blood. If they told me that, I would say, sorry, this is a show. But the MIT professors and the leading researchers have seen and confirmed it, and everyone's shocked. So listen, you have to at least check. Now, my main point in this one right here is that with the naked eye, the frequency says you can't even see with the naked eye. In fact, you see nothing when you look normally. So my point, the reason why I bring this up, and I'm going to get into the cattle issue in a moment, but the reason why I bring this up, when the suffering and the carnage is taking place and someone is dying there on the ground in Gaza, things can be happening with these entities, these demonic entities, that the naked eye would never even see. It would happen so fast, you wouldn't even know it happened. And they could be there and be feasting on these people before you know it and gone. That's what he's talking about. Now, by the way, this article here, and I've got a lot of things on here, Chaim Eshed, this is from the interview that he did on Yediot Aronot, December the 2nd of 2020. He was considered the father of Israel's science program. Galactic Federation is delaying the publication of the information so as not to cause panic. That's why they're not telling you anything about what's really going on. He says, we will contact aliens. They will teach us everything they know. Science will leap 1,000 light years ahead. Isn't it interesting that you got this coming from Israel's leading space scientists? He's not just spilling his guts. They allow him to say it. Because to them, like in the case of a rabbi here, Ariel Sadok, that's about half off his rocker, thinking reptilians are some kind of God's helpers. They're preparing the people to accept this as normal. All the while, they're feasting without you even seeing it. They're just sucking out your blood and guts and everything else. They're going to teach us everything they know. And I've been saying this before Chaim Eshed ever said it. I was telling you these things already from the intel I was getting from D.C. on a regular basis. I would tell you about these things. I'd tell you that in 2026 is when they estimated the time frame for these entities to come, and they're going to come like they're benevolent. They're going to tell you they sent Jesus, they sent Muhammad, they tried to get us to do things right, but we messed it all up, but they're here to save the day. They're going to make sure we're at full-blown war, we're all dying of disease, famine, and everything else, and they're going to come in here like that series of 2009 that's on Amazon called the V series. It's going to be just like that. But buddy, that pretty girl can shape shift, turns into a lizard, and will eat you like no tomorrow. Yeah. So you will agree to wait until the middle of this article with excellent news. Hint, this is eternal life, but not in this body. Oh, God, no way, that's not eternal life. Professor Eshed is one of the most respected and sharp astronauts in Israel, who headed the Israel Space Agency's administration, the Ministry of Defense, and was directly responsible for planning and developing Israel's satellite program and launching the first satellite, Ofik, the one in 1988. The UMA, I've actually told you about that too. And that was spotted in Hawaii. That was that huge space rock. They caught it with some not satellites, but with their space telescopes, about which Professor Abraham Lieb, head of the Department of Astronomy at Harvard, stated that it was a UFO. Eshed can no longer resist. Even Harry Reid, the former majority leader of the U.S. Senate, has now given an interview and said, click on the government to publish the evidence it has accumulated over the years. Enough is enough. They're only trickling it out because they're being allowed to trickle it out. So That's just some of the things there I wanted to share with you there. Let's move on. This here is where Linda Moulton Howe speaks a little bit about this as well. Let's listen in.
And had been previously, and this is important, before we got to Denver, we were in Boston, and my husband was working on an MBA degree at Harvard University, and I had been hired from KNBC in Los Angeles out of Stanford University with a master's degree in communication. I had been hired by the ABC affiliate in Boston to do all of their medical programming. So I was coming through a lens of every day of my life. I was dealing with crews. We were doing surgeries. We were doing every possible facet of medicine. And my husband was hired by timing to begin what was then, hard to believe now, the beginning stages of expanding cable into the United States. And that was what my husband did as a corporate executive. And that was why we moved from Boston to Denver, where they headquartered, and I was hired there to be director of special projects. And it was in 1979, toward the end of the summer, I was working with a crew, guy out of LA, very skilled. He'd just come off a shoot for 2020 in New York when Ruben Arlen hired there to be director of special projects. And it was in 1979, toward the end of the summer, I was working with a crew, guy out of LA, very skilled. He'd just come off a shoot for 2020 in New York when Ruben Arledge and that whole thing was starting. And my cameraman and he and I were sitting having lunch in the middle of another production that I was working on. It had absolutely nothing to do with animals or medicine. But he said, you know, Linda, what a stickler you are for me keeping my battery belts going. Back then, this is another thing people don't realize. When we were...
let me fast forward. I'm wanting to get to where she talks about the animal mutilations. I did want her credentials, though, to be played as well. Let's see if we get to that.
And he let me lay them all out, and I did them in groups of cases. Things shifted. And then he looked at me and he said, look, I'll save you some time. The perpetrators of these animal mutilations are creatures from outer space.
There you go.
And it was a jolt to my mind and my body and my spirit, and he was looking straight at me, eye to eye. And as I look at you eye to eye today on June 19th, 2020, 41 years later, I have walked, seems like thousands of miles in pastures in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere. I have collected tissue from maybe 30 animals, where I go out into a pasture with scalpel or scissors and cut around the edges, label meticulously with wire labels. This is the sheriff, this is the mutilator, this is my scissors. Send it to a lab, they do pathological exam, and the conclusions come back. The collagen has been cooked, the hemoglobin has been cooked at the excisions, but there is no carbon black. We are on a planet of carbon-based life forms. You cannot take anything like a laser to any carbon-based life form, do any kind of an excision with heat, and end up under a microscope with no carbon. That's impossible unless you are not using a laser. If you are using some...
All right. I wanted to bring out Linda a little bit because Linda is the one journalist with a regular journalist that expose a cattle mutilation, and they call this cattle mutilation. And what's fascinating about her work is that these UFOs, they come down, they take, in some cases they take the cow up and then come back and leave the cow down. In other cases, just right there on the ground, and the organs will be missing out of the animal. The blood will be gone. Now, if you think about that, that's why I said I want you to really start thinking deeply about this, because not only are we seeing in Gaza this insane, no doubt, I really believe something very suspicious is going on with Gaza. I believe this war is a mass sacrifice. It is a mass offering. I believe that the adrenals and the suffering of the people are being fed upon by archons and demons and everything else you can imagine. You know, and now here's what's kind of odd, right? We go back and if we ever look at the biblical account in the wilderness journey about how that the fire came down and stuff, it's just interesting. So whether or not Satan likes to mimic what's going on in biblical times or not, I don't really know, but I find it interesting in this regard. I find that interesting. But then you have there's 6 videos here. I'm going to play a little bit of this right here. These are seen over the Temple Mount there in Jerusalem, video footage there that was shown. Listen into this here. The right side is a zoomed in image of the left side.
Whoa!
There it goes. You see it go up? We're going to do another one here. This is again over the Temple Mount. Now she said to him, "Do you see it?" He goes, "What is it?" And they go, "What is it?"
UFO? Holy shit!
Well, I don't guess you need translation for that one.
Oh, that's cool. You can almost hardly look at it. We've seen them in Mississippi like this, but never like never like that.
And it just took off out of nowhere. And the thing is like they say,
UFO? Holy shit! Oh, that's cool. You can almost hardly look at it. We've seen them in Mississippi like this.
Another one right there. I don't know where that's actually at there. But the thing is there's so much alien activity that's going on. And a lot of that is interdimensional. But like you read there earlier from Icke, from the article there, they can come down, do what they're going to do, and the naked eye will never even realize it, and it'll be over with. You come back, like they talk about the cattle, and there's nothing left in the cattle. They've done come down before you could blink your eye, cut that cow open, drained all of its blood out of it, took its organs out of it, and gone again. What are they doing? Harvesting like sacrifices? They doing like God did in the Old Testament there? Is that what that is? I mean, think about it. That's what I say. I want you to really start thinking deep. I want you to, quit playing church and start thinking about what you're seeing, what you're reading about, what you're hearing about. And now they got the red heifers there in Israel. They're getting ready. What are they getting ready for? As Moloch coming down to receive his sacrifice? Looks like they're already giving him a sacrifice of humans. But maybe they do need that red heifer too. What has that poor little cow done to deserve that kind of a death? But obviously, that liver seems to be very special according to the Midrash. Yep, that's exactly what they want. Let's listen to what David had to say here, and I want to play this here for you a little bit there. And again, I'm not a big David Icke fan there, but, he may have a point here. Listen in.
It's interesting, when you look at the traits, this is mainstream science, when you look at the traits of what we call the reptilian brain, reptilian genetics, which we all have, one of the traits is an obsession with ritual. So, when you look at all the pomp and ceremony of the royal family, you know, with Buckingham Palace and all this stuff, and all the ceremonies and the guards and the horses and the colours, you're looking at ritual.
But you say that the people that actually live on the island are part of this. There are people, there's a network on the island that are...
Big time. I mean, the Isle of Wight's a beautiful place, and if you pick up the higher levels, vibrational levels of it, it's a very pleasant place to be. But my goodness me, there is a network of Freemasons, Satanists, and pedophiles that run this island.
And this is
they run its
police.
government.
Okay. Freemasons, right? That's what he said. Freemasons, Satanists, and pedophiles. And then I just shared with you just moments ago there some of the imagery. I don't have it up there now, but I shared with you earlier the Freemason stuff in Jerusalem. Think about it. Let me get to the part though where David comes out to this sacrificial rock. I brought this out because I wanted you to see the sacrificial side of what's going on, which I think is happening in Israel.
Funny,
as
you
well.
come on a day like this. It's a nice day, and there's families around, and you see these stones. You could see these on May the 1st, Halloween, that kind of, in these ritual periods of the year.
And you'd be a totally different story.
You would see something very different.
So
Yeah.
this is the center point of this energy then, that they're trying to tap into.
What they would do, among many other things, you'd have them in their robes and hoods all around here, and you probably have, you would have the sacrifice on the slab
This is
here.
the altar.
This is their altar, yeah. And what they're doing, it's horrible, but let's get the truth out. What they're doing is manipulating the sacrifice. The sacrifice knows the sacrifice is coming, and who's going to help them? Look,
right.
At midnight or something. No one. And what they then do is they sacrifice the victim, and they drink the blood immediately, which has this chemical substance in it, and they go crazy. I mean, you know, I've talked to people who've been at these rituals, and how once the sacrifice happens and the blood runs, these people go crazy with blood.
They go crazy with the blood. So again, the claim is that the soul is in the blood, which we know biblically that is correct. And the other thing is that they are also the liver and the harvesting of organs and things out of cattle and things like that. Could that possibly be going on in Gaza as well? I want to play this little clip here. This is actually a strange UFO phenomena over Gaza. Over Gaza. See those two lights right there? Let me back it up a little bit more when they first start talking about it.
Wait, what is it? No, really, what the fuck is it?
Pardon the language on there. See another one pops in there. That one pops out.
Yeah, but now it's like one big one.
That one pops out. Who knows? Who knows? I don't have the answer to all these things there, but I did want to share that with you. I don't know. And we got the 2 Kings there. I don't recall why I had this up here. Okay, I was looking for something on there, but I did not find it, so that's okay. We won't play that there. Anyway, listen, those of you that would like to come, I'm going to post the link in there a little bit later tonight. Let's see, it's 5:30 now. I think it's at 8:30, 3 hours from now. We will be doing our Sunday Zoom meeting on Lifewave. If you want to join in, you are welcome. I posted here too because sometimes when we email out, people don't always get the email, so I share that with you here. It's certainly no pressure for anybody, but we do have amazing things that we just had happen here that have been shared with us. Some personal friends of ours, one of them in particular, her son with severe autism, nonverbal, combative to himself, harming himself and everything, and after 2 months of use, he stopped harming himself for the first time ever. Adult. Now he's a young man as an adult. I think in his mid-30s, something like that. And his mother is just totally elated by seeing that his stem cells, not that the patch did it, but his stem cells were activated because of that patch. And this is one of the most beautiful testimonies we have heard to date. We're going to be sharing that with another absolutely astonishing testimony that a man's doctor confirmed. Totally blocked arteries, 70% blocked carotid arteries, was supposed to have surgery, goes back in, and the surgeon could not believe his eyes. Zero blockage. Anyway, we're going to be talking about those things tonight on our Zoom meeting, so I'll post that in the description below. You are invited if you'd like to come. Hey, no risk, no obligation, and we're just so amazed about the results people get, so we like to share that. God bless you, and thank you for listening. I'm Stephen Bennun with Israeli News Live.